Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome to the episode number 7 of Live with Skills to Do, जहाँ पे हमारी कोशिश होती है कि हम आपको डिफरेंट बैकग्राउंड से डिफरेंट प्रोफेशनल से मिलवाएं और जो अपने एक्सपीरियंस हिसाब से शेयर करें कि वो अपनी फील्ड में क्या कर रहे हैं, आप लोगों के लिए क्या अपॉर्चुनिटीज हैं। और आज का हमारा सेशन जो है इट इज गोइंग टू बी अ बिट डिफरेंट and this session will be more will be entirely in English because we have a guest with us who is going to share so much amazing information. I would say knowledge. Yeah, so much amazing knowledge with us. And the topic for today, you can see that in our ticker, it says intuitive art and self awareness. Oh my goodness, it's so good to say it that we are finally talking about such topics in Pakistan over an online learning platform, and we're going to make it an essential topic moving on, inshallah. And we are all going to see that how it benefits all of us. So our guest for today is Tamara Anis, who is an artist, is a life coach, is a healer. So I would, instead of giving her introduction, I would love that she says a few words about what she is doing these days, what has been her inspiration. So, without further delay, let's welcome Tamara Anis. Hey,
Hi,
Tamara.
hi, Aisha. Thank
Hi,
you for
how are
having
you?
me here. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. I'm really excited for this live today. It's been
Oh,
2 years.
likewise.
It's been 2 years, and people have been asking me for it, like begging me, and I always said no. So now it's the
Yeah.
time to be back and on such an amazing topic, right? At least for me,
Yeah.
it's such an amazing topic. I cannot be silent about it. It just keeps on going always.
That everybody can guess the excitement on your face, and I'm just so excited that we are taking it on an e-learning platform, this thing
Yeah.
as a topic, because this domain is so much needed for people to understand. Because when they have all the required skills, when they have all the plans on their table, but still there are things that are not working. And today we are going to discuss that how we can make our things work with the unstated needs that we have that we don't pay our attention to. So, Tamara, before we jump into our topic, I would love for you to introduce yourself with our audience, that who Tamara Anis is, what are inspirations, and why this amazing field that you have as a career.
Oof. Like, okay, let me start from the beginning. I want to first answer one question everyone has to literally take that out of the way, right? And then we can speak about this topic. So, my name
Perfect.
officially is Tamara Robert, right? I'm married to my Pakistani husband. His name is Anis Chaudhry, and I live in Lahore, Pakistan, right? So, I'm actually based here. That's enough information for now. So I'm not just an outsider. I kind of became Pakistani over like the last year. So my background. I have an extensive background as well, creative business and personal development. So I started off studying international business, started working in the video games industry, and did that for 12 years in PR, marketing, product management, localizations. And halfway, things just started daunting on me that like it was really cool, and it was a very useful skill, but it didn't make me really happy. I always agreed with the art director and the creatives, but I had absolutely no background, no creative background to prove that my artistic and creative input would actually be of any substantial value, right? Because I was the PR and marketing. So at some point in my career, I actually decided to quit my job and took a huge leap of faith and went to Art Academy and studied documentary photography at the Royal Academy of Arts. Because at that moment in the Netherlands, by the way, and because at that moment in time, I was under the illusion that right, I am creative, but not that creative. So let me just work with creatives, right, and be around the process of around the creative process instead of being the creative person myself. And so my father's Dutch, my mother's Romanian, and they both have backgrounds which are very similar in my experience to what I experience here in Pakistan. Is that my father's background comes from um, has a very strong religious background, and my mother comes from a very political system, right? So there were all kinds of issues, kind of like married into people, which made me. And being born and raised in the Netherlands, living in one of the freest countries in the world, right? Supposedly, and having the education that I had, I didn't understand, just like you said in your introduction, right? That I had all the skills. I even had 2 degrees, right?
Yeah.
And somehow it didn't seem to work, right? I was working really hard with almost zero to none results. I was like, where is this coming from? Like, what is this? And it was completely based on a lack of self awareness at that moment, right? It's like, what, like, what is stories, right? What our family lines? What is the background we're coming from? And how, through that, we are unconsciously programmed in a few settings, right?
Yeah.
And it's almost kind of like, right, I had some Dutch Western settings, and because my mother was Romanian, I had a few Romanian settings, and you can kind of see it like a computer program, right, where you program the computer with different settings, and at some moment the programs become a little bit old and they start
Yeah.
lagging, right? And your computer becomes slower and slower and slower and slower. And like when that happens with our computer, we don't freak out, right? We do not panic. We just go to the computer, spend 2 or 3 days or a week cleaning it up, right? Taking all the old programs off, all the old chat programs off, right? Nowadays, like if you look at the social media space, it's a nice example, right? We've got TikTok and Snapchat and Instagram, and like Facebook is already getting old. And before that, the older chat programs were, for example, IRC, right? And that was like 10 years ago, 15 years ago. If you still have IRC on your computer, but we're now in the TikTok age. At some moment, the computer gets a little bit slow. So we just kind of want to update it. And when it comes to self awareness, right? Like, and this is totally human. We all have it. There's nothing wrong with it. And it's not even a problem. Is that most of us just go like, no, 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 no. I do not want to clean up the hard disk, right? We
Yeah.
skip cleaning up the hard disk, right? Then installing a new program, and that new program will actually help and support you to create that business, that career, the family life, the relationship, the marriage, the health, right? Um, your art, your expression, and any level of life, basically. And what many of us do, and what I also did for a very long time in my life, and that's the funny part, right? Like when sharing knowledge, wisdom, or being a teacher, I truly believe for 100% to solve the issue yourself first. Right? You need to have had that issue yourself in order to be able to bring a solution and a gateway, right, out for someone else. So I completely refused, I think, for at least 10 years to clean up the hard disk, right? To clean up my own mental state. Like, what am I actually thinking? Right? Which thoughts do I actually have? Right? What are the programs in my mind? Like, what am I actually feeling? Because the feelings and the thoughts that come aren't always of the nicest caliber. Right? And none of us want to admit that we have such things. Yet, when right is there, if there's no foundation, it becomes really difficult to actually put something out, which is sad in a way, right? Because all of us, we work so incredibly hard, right, to get the skills and the communication skills and to be loving, right, sons, daughters, husbands, wives, the sisters, friends, right, be good colleague. And somehow there's this circle which keeps on creating a sense of depression, anxiety, unfulfillment, that feeling of like always needing to run towards something, like it's almost never enough, like there's no end to it, which becomes so makes you so tired, right? It's almost like, and if we just keep on going for too long, it just ends up in despair, right? And from despair, it almost goes into, it's not surrender, right? It's like quitting, right?
Yeah.
We feel quitting on,
Unfortunately.
like, it doesn't really matter what you quit on, but we start slowly quitting on small things, right? We start quitting on our cup of chai, right? And, or for example, you like coffee, and everyone drinks chai at 4 o'clock, but you want coffee, right? And at some point, like, you just give up on the coffee and drink the chai. And at some point, right, you just give up on that idea of that friendship. You just give up on the career or the idea you might find the the life partner that you wish for, someone that's really on your side and with you, right? All those big dreams.
Yeah. So, Tamara, sorry to interrupt. We're having this feedback from the audience that there is a bit distortion with
Uh-oh.
the voice. So, can you please use some hands-free or the, yeah.
Let me see if I can borrow one from the purple next to me. 1 second, guys. I'm gonna run and I'm
Sure.
gonna be back very soon because mine are broken.
Okay. So thank you so much, Mohsin Bashir, for telling that we need to fix the voice because अगर आवाज़ ही ठीक नहीं आ रही होगी और अगर हमें मैसेज क्लियरली हमें नहीं मिल रहा होगा तो देयर इज़ अ वेरी लिटिल लर्निंग दैट इज़ लेफ्ट फॉर अस और आज का जो हमारा टॉपिक है दिस इज सो मच ऑफ एन इम्पोर्टेंस व्हेन इट कम्स टू सेल्फ अवेयरनेस जिसे हम डिफरेंट लैंग्वेजेस में डिफरेंट राइटर्स डिफरेंट पोएट्स के व्यू से हम देख रहे होते हैं कभी इकबाल को पढ़ के कभी रूमी को पढ़ के उनके पर्सपेक्टिव से हम जान रहे होते हैं सो आज हम तमारा के
Yes.
पर्सपेक्टिव से we are trying to look at what self-awareness is and how intuitive art helps in that and there are so many beautiful little techniques that are around us in our everyday life and we don't have to put a lot of effort of going out and finding things or probably traveling a lot to find that kind of self-awareness when there are little things that are just around us and those tools and techniques help us to trigger our self awareness so
How's my sound now?
I think this sounds better. Yeah,
Yes?
it does. Yeah, so let me just add our audience's comments till now that we have received. Let's enjoy them together, right?
Yes?
So Umer says, "Great to see you, Tamara Anis. Tamara, you're stealing the show. That's not right." Okay.
I'm
Then
so sorry, Aisha. I'm so sorry. Because you're such like
I
because
feel very
without
good
you,
when when my guests are stealing the show, it means that the purpose is being fulfilled. So then,
12
then we have
minutes are
Malik.
done.
Yeah. So then we have Malik, and he says one more good effort. He is a very regular, part of our shows that we are doing since the day one. So thank you so much, Malik. And then we have Ansar Abbas. He's sharing his love, and Mohsin. He provided his feedback over the audio. I think it is now better. So
So,
Malik is asking, are there any hurdles from society that stop you from self-awareness?
uh-oh. Aisha, are you there? Hey guys, I've got no clue if anyone can hear me or Aisha, but on my screen, Aisha is a little bit stuck. So let's see if we can get her back. Maybe she's doing the exact same thing on the other side, but I don't know. Can anyone in the chat let us know if you can still hear me or Aisha? Right? Your feedback is absolutely um, of value at this moment. So, are there any hurdles from society that stop you from self awareness? Um, Actually, no. The funny thing is that the hurdles of society are actually your tools in order to increase self awareness, right? So, um, let's see. Right, so like first of all, let's go back to what self-awareness actually means, right? What is self-awareness? And it's as simple as being aware of oneself, right? Knowing what happens in your own mind, in your own body, in your own soul, right? And it is something that happens on the inside and therefore not on the outside. Now, we've been often been taught that like self-awareness is a very deep, long, and spiritual process, and obviously it's a very spiritual process, but it's not long and deep because it's kind of always happening in the now moment. Um, and it's inside of you. And the really cool and intriguing thing about it is that like the more we become self-aware about what we feel inside of us, it starts reflecting on the outside, right? So the society is actually becoming a support in raising our self-awareness, and with raising our self-awareness we are actually raising our capacity and ability to actually navigate that space um, of society. Hey Aisha, are you back? Hey,
Hey, yes, I'm here. I just lost my net connection. Thank you so much for first
I
taking
just
the show and then leading the show.
I didn't know. Are you have
Guys, we
absolutely
really
no
need to
clue
choose
what
our
you're
host for
doing.
this
Yeah.
Skills to Do live session moving forward.
So I answered.
We probably be having some Mira do these.
I
Yes, please,
answered.
please continue.
Yeah, I answered Malik's question, right? About like, are there any hurdles from society? Actually, in short, we spoke about that society is actually like your gateway, is our your presence, because through them you can see what's happening inside, and then what's happening inside will start reflecting on the outside again, right? So instead of the society being like a hurdle, or like something that is blocking you from self-awareness and from your joy and your fulfillment, they're actually like little gifts, right? And the people keep on showing us all kinds of different things which we like and which we don't like, which we agree and which we do not agree upon, right? Which make us feel bad, which make us feel good, and all these elements in the end create create self-awareness, and the self-awareness literally says self, right? So it happens inside of us, not in the outside. So before you lost the connection, yeah, we can hear you. Okay, cool.
Okay. We're
So yeah,
keeping an eye on the comments as well.
yeah, I'm also
Yes,
seeing
perfect.
we got the echo, then some
Okay,
questions.
so
You said something really
yeah, so
profound.
we'll add a few more comments.
Yeah, you
Okay,
said
so
something
we'll
really.
add a few more comments and then we will take it from there.
Yeah.
Is there a lag?
No, we were just enthusiastic, both of us.
Okay, okay. Let's just have a few more comments and then take it from there. Thank you so much, everybody, for sticking around, for understanding that we are still in the new normal transition phase. So, Facebook user, I you probably have not mentioned your name via the link. So, two favorite positive, like-minded, inspiring people together. So happy to see you both. Thank you so very much. This is really encouraging for us. Mm, and then okay, so Mohsin says, my pleasure, Tamara, for another useful session. Thank you so much, Mohsin, for being with us on yet another live session. And Malik asked that what factors of our society can help in knowing ourselves. Now, that is interesting. That is an interesting question. So, what do you say, Tamara, about that? That what factors of our society can help in knowing ourselves?
So, what sectors of our society can help in knowing ourselves? That truly depends, right? All of all of us, every human being has a soul's journey, right? Has a path, and my path might be completely different than your path, right? And my path might be completely different than Malik's path, and we might meet somewhere in the middle and then go on a completely different track, right? There are just as many flavors of flavors as that there are humans on this planet. So there might be some factors in society that might not be of it, or let's say not, we can use everything in our beneficial way, but that are not going to be on our radars, right? Some of us come here to really indulge and learn in topics just like family and relationships. Other people really come to learn and to master topics such as like setting up business or creativity. There are people that come to master topics just like grief and things, right? So it kind of depends a little bit on like the soul's journey and the soul's path, which lessons like we came here to learn, and they're similar themes, but in general, they are different for everyone. And with that, right, we have things that will interest us more in this life, or in things that will interest us less in this lifetime, right? But that doesn't mean that the other factors cannot support us in that. And like self-awareness, in the end we all have the same journey, right? We're all here to, let's see me how they say that, like we're all here to connect to that bigger source, which is the universe, which is us, right? So we all have the same purpose of connecting and being one unified humanity. And how we do that expresses in so many multiple ways. And because of that, right, we're all unique. And one of the things when it comes to self-awareness, which we're really afraid of, is like, I do not fit in. And I guess there's almost everyone goes like, I do not fit in. And the most beautiful thing is that we all do not fit in with us not fitting in, right? We're all unique beings. We're all unique, different beings, right? And yeah, the topics that show up on the journey usually are the same, right? At some point in life, there is this moment of like depression, anxiety, sometimes panic attacks, right? Extreme fatigue, which then like lead as the catalyst, right? To kind of like wake up and say like, wait a second, like this is not how it's supposed to be. And I would like to have something else in life, right? I deserve to be happy in the ways that happy means for me. And for someone that can be setting up a really big company, really successful big company, and for the other person that might be a cottage in the hills, right? And everything in between. What else do we have?
Okay, perfect. So Saleha says, thanks for doing this Skills to Do great topic. Oh yes, thank you so much for your appreciation, Saleha. And then because there are many people who are watching for the first time, Tamara, so they are very curious to learn that. Okay, so like we have this question: what is the main reason you are staying in Pakistan? So maybe we just want to hear some really good stuff. Let's do that.
Yeah. The main reason, right? For me, it's already growing old. But the main reason that I'm in Pakistan at the moment is my husband.
Oh yes.
Yes, but that is not where it started, right? It is not where it started. Interestingly enough, it did start through a wedding. Like, I think it became very typically Pakistani, right? Because families, husbands, weddings, it's getting more beautiful and bigger every single time, right? And that is there where the interesting part of self awareness also comes in, right? Is the human connection, right? How do we relate to each other? And so it was about 4 years ago now that I met a friend, was in the UK. She got married, asked me if I wanted to come to Pakistan, and I said yes. So I attended her wedding. It was near Islamabad in DHA Pindi. And I just loved being here. And there was something that resonated with me, right? Something that just keep me coming back. And I actually, by then, 4 years ago, started having these ideas about self-awareness and about putting out the information that I had, because somehow I felt that the the need, right, and the support of this way of looking at personal growth was really needed here, that people needed it. Yet sometimes it is also like the way I'm trained, right, the way I perceive things. There's many ways of perceptions, right, different perceptions, but the way I perceive things is it comes from a Western perspective, but then kind of like mixed with the Pakistani and the Desi culture, because by over the last 3 or 4 years I kept on coming back and forth, learning more and more and more about a place that felt home and familiar, but that my logical mind didn't know anything about, right? So now I'm here for like 1.5 years, like and actually married by now to a Pakistani, so fully indulged in anything to do with Pakistan, which also gave me an opportunity to learn about all the problems, right? Which specifically catered towards the Pakistani way of experiencing, right? Because every part of the world has like kind of like the same problems but expressed in their own different ways, right? So they need different approaches and a different like different approaches, different perspectives. So it was really important for me to be capable and able to understand the perspectives from a very Pakistani mindset, right? Not like we spoke about in the beginning, that we all have programs and settings like a computer, Because obviously, when I got here in the beginning, my mind was programmed with the Western mindset, right? With my Western computer programs. So it took quite a while, quite a couple of months to reprogram my mind to be capable of really fully embodying understanding on an intellectual but also emotional and spiritual level, right? How this path and the problems and the things in Pakistan are being perceived by Pakistani, right? And I think that is why it was important that, like, all the ideas that I had, right, and like the platform you set up, Skills to Do, and the self-awareness and the courses and intuitive art, that it had a delay, so that it gave me the opportunity to learn things from the inside out, right? Otherwise, I would be a Western person coming to tell somebody here, like, hey, this is how you should do it, right? Nobody, literally no human being on the planet likes it when someone from the outside comes to, like, tell you how you should do and live your life, right? That is not how things work, and it is not a human thing to do. So in this time here, having all these like really Pakistani experiences, anything from like having a job here, like how is it to have a job in the corporate sector, how is it to get out of the job, how is it to start for yourself, how is it to find places to live, how is it to live in a family setting, how is it to live on your own, like how are the the social dynamics just between friends, between men and women, right, on all different levels, and now also like before marriage, after marriage, and all these things. And it's like a God's gift, right, that I had the opportunity to experience that literally within, let's say, like 1.5 years. So that is like, well, what is it? Like 18 months. I feel like I got a crash course Pakistan, but I'm still enjoying it.
Yeah. Perfect, perfect. I think there were many people who wanted to learn from you and who just wanted you to stay here, and they had no means to ask you for that. So it is their prayers that you actually settle down in Pakistan. We are fortunate to host you for many, many years,
Yeah,
inshallah. So
and like,
I just,
and that is the
yeah,
interesting thing, right? You go ahead.
okay, okay. I just like it's off the topic. I just noticed that your top and my lipstick are of the same color. What an intuitive connection, right?
Yeah, beautiful. Sometimes we can be off topic and just be really fun. That's also part of life, right? Yes.
Yeah, that's lovely. That's
Yeah.
lovely. Okay, so for our understanding, because the topic says intuitive art, so art
Yes.
is something that we love intrinsically, no matter how good or bad we are at it. So, but this is something that always catches our attention, catches our eyes, and there is, you can say, a soul connection towards it.
Yeah.
So, but as someone who does not know how to paint, how to hold a brush even. So it seems like a difficult job for me to do. So how would you explain why intuitive art and what does it have for anyone who is listening to our live session today and who will be joining your course that is coming very soon on Skills to Do, and I'm really excited about that.
I'm so
So
excited.
how would you explain that? Why intuitive art?
Right? Like when you look at intuitive art, right, there are like three things to look at, right? There's the first intuitive, that's the word. Then the second one is art. And then there's also the maker, right, which is the artist, right? So, um,
Okay.
right? So first of all, like, why would you actually do intuitive art if you're not an artist, right? That, like, we can almost all
Is there a
agree,
lag from my
right?
side? I don't know.
I don't know. Like, let me go on, right? So, intuitive art artist. Most of us do have a connection, right, to art and appreciate art that may either be in written form, as in words and poetry and great philosophy and like the great poets, right, such as Rumi or Iqbal or Shakespeare. That is especially in Pakistan, like the written arts and the poetry and the spoken word is really popular. But somehow we do not always associate ourselves with that, right? But art and creative doesn't always mean like making physical arts, right? Being a creative and being an artist in my perspective, always means that we all have creative energy, right? And if we know how to tap into our creative and problem solving energy, right, that soul of us that wants to express and create something, regardless if that is a business or if that is a painting or if that is a, a form of poetry or a book or theater arts, right? It could also be expressive arts or dance, all the different from singing, right? It is the creative energy which is inherent to every human being, which wishes to express itself, which most of us globally have never learned to fully express, right? And then we get back to that part which is intuitive, right? Intuitive is like it comes from the soul, right? There's not always mind coming in the way, right? And like the most in the end, right, the journey is to find that balance between like the intuitive soul, right, which is can be wild and expressive and has sometimes no meaning or no apparent meaning and seems to be all over the place and doesn't really make any sense always, like really creative and chaotic. Um, and then right there's the more logical part of us, so like the more like you would almost say human part of us, right, which is very organized and focused and straightforward and intellectual, and there's like a lot of wisdom. And the moment we balance those two, right, that is where this creative magic happens, because we actually have like we we have the capacity to tap into the creative energy which is inherent our soul, right? Because the soul is art by its own expression by itself. And the more we are connected to our soul, the more the soul is embodied in our human lives, the more creative we become, right? And once again, being extra creative doesn't mean that you suddenly throw your business out and you quit being a CEO or you quit being an employee, right? And you just spend your time on a mountaintop painting or writing poetry, right? That could actually also just mean that in your accountancy job or in your CEO, right, function you have, is that the creative energy that is present for you to like navigate the business, right, where you have decision making in the combination between mind and heart, right, mind and soul. That is where the intuitive part comes in, right? And then the arts, because the course we're launching is really like artsy course, right? So now suddenly we are gonna paint in the first course that we we do. And so like for many years I also went through all this process of self-awareness and awakening, right? And having this like creative goddess or queen. I wanted to say monster, but then I think creative queen clings sounds more awesome, right? This like this creative monster, this creative cute monster though. Queen inside of me, right, which just wanted to express itself in like a very like pure form without interfering of the mind. And even though I studied art academy and arts for like 4 years, very classical, I really felt the need to bypass this logical mind that like always has to say something about it, right? Always has an opinion, right? Always wants to go somewhere. Always thinks like, oh no, do this, don't do that. Maybe this is good, that is not good. Like this consistently being analytical, right? It started to work against me because it was all mind and there was no body and soul, right? And our purest expression is when those are all together, right? When we're also mindful, right? And when the mind is full, it doesn't mean full of repetitive tasks. It also means like full of the spirit, right? And with with arts, whenever I wanted to go and look at YouTube, for example, at an art tutorial, I would actually be get more anxiety and more stress and more depression because I thought like I'm not the next Da Vinci, right? I'm not the next Michelangelo. I I know nothing about classical arts except for what I've written and studied, right? It's amazing to have a very historical classical background. But then art is so much bigger, right? There's so many different ways of it. And some of us we just want to express, right? Be free. So having this idea that I need to know how my brushes works. I need to know 6 tutorials about oil paint. I need to know all the qualities of acrylics. And then there's so many different canvases and which are for artists and which aren't for artists. And how much do I spend on this? How much do I not spend on it? Like I took a one single ticket back to where I came from because this was just too much information, right? All I just wanted was to just relax, right? And to really connect back to where I came from. And like in my personal case, right, the soul's journey already was I want to be an artist, right? So that is like one-on-one together. But it didn't start from that part because I also run a business, right? I worked in a very corporate environment for a very long time, and also there it is. That always has been very useful. Um, and then I started teaching this stuff because somehow, also intuitively, I got the call like, don't look at too much stuff, right? Just play, right? And now we associate playing with children, right? But when we're a child, our soul is most expressive, right? Before we get conditioned with society rules and for society ways of being. And the interesting part is, right, is that how, for example, Asian culture has organized specific things, right, are completely different in, for example, in Europe. And then there's a difference between Western Europe and Eastern Europe. And they're completely different in Africa. And they're completely different in the United States. And then again, they're completely different in Latin America. So it really made me wonder also about like how much of what I know is like a fixed part of information, right? Is it actually true? Because how can it be that we have so many billion peoples on this planet and we all have different ways of expressing the same thing and we all claim that this is the only way, right? And
Yeah,
and and
it's a
still
funny
yet,
realization.
yeah, and still yet we're all coexisting, right? So true,
Yeah.
like intuitive art in a very light-hearted, intuitive way of playing, right? We start recognizing that soul's energy inside of us again. And that feels not childish, but childlike because it's very light, right? And it's very joyful and it's very pleasurable in all the right and gentle ways. But because we associate that with like childish, many of us are not allowing that energy to come back. And with the intuitive painting and the technique that I developed and which are all my paintings are based on and all my work is based on is so simple and so lighthearted, right? And it really doesn't it has as a purpose also to like activate that creation energy in you by bypassing your conscious mind and teaching you again to how it feels, what joyful creative soul's energy is, and to start feeling safe enough again to actually allow that energy. Because when we can allow that in a painting, we can also slowly start allowing that energy to express itself in other parts of our lives as well as in relationships, homes, but also business, right? And between in colleagues and having really like almost easy creative what is it what's the word of it in English, like yeah, creative problem solving, right, within sometimes very complex corporate business structures. So you were present when we created the course.
Oh
So how
yes,
was
I
it for
was
you?
fortunate.
You already experienced it, so maybe the viewers would like to know a little bit of insight from someone who actually kind of already done it.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I mean, looking at the art for for a beginner, I might think that okay, so what art has to do with me? I'm running a platform, like I need to, know the processes and the techniques and all. But in order to get into myself, in order to get back to what my beliefs are, because we are living in a very chaotic world. Every next day, we are having so much news about businesses going up and down and governments changing their processes. So, for a startup, for a business, it always hounds. These news are always come to hound us. So, but then I need to find why I started in the first place. When I came up with the idea, there was no fear of how the government will change its processes. There was no fear of how the economy will work out in the coming days. So, in order to get back to my own self, I really need to have such tools and techniques in hand that keep me on the track, that don't make me get distracted with the chaos that is around me. And with this technique, you made it so easy, like playing with the colors and stuff. Otherwise, what do we do is normally because people who know me, they know I love travel. So I travel a lot just in order to find my true self back, and just shed off all those chaos that I was getting with myself. So with these colors and paints and stuff and techniques that you have made it so easy for people who really want to go out and explore the world, but they want to stay in their zone. They have to stay in their zone, and then they have to find their techniques. So I would really, really thank you again for making it so easy for all of us. Okay, so seems like we'll have another question. And before I go to that question, for all the people who are listening to us right now, you can all log on to skillstodo.com/my certificate and enter the password skillstodo.com. That is where you are going to have your certificate of attending today's live session with Tamara Anis. So let's go back and include another question from Malik, and he says, "We have to be realistic in self-realization. If we make fake ideas, how much will it be dangerous?" That's pretty important. That there is a wishful thought, and then there is the actual intuitive thought. So how do we manage the difference?
Well, like, let me first answer this question and then later on relate it back to arts and how that arts could actually help you navigate this specific space
Sure.
and this specific question, right? So, like, like you said, right? There's let me say it like this. I'm gonna give you a really funny example, right? We are gonna drive from Lahore to Islamabad, right? So we get in the car, right? That is the self-realization path, right? It's almost like the life journey when we get to Islamabad. Obviously, we can also always go up back to Gilgit, but we've crossed right one part of the life journey. And so halfway, right, you drive around the corner and there's this like delicious ice cream shop, right? So you get out and you just like take another ice cream, sorry, eat another ice cream. Good. They get back in the car. We go back further on. Our focus is on Islamabad, right? 10 minutes later, a friend calls like, "Hey, do you want to come over for chai? I'm living in DHA phase 6. So please go there," right? So we go to DHA phase 6, and like 6 hours later or the next morning, we suddenly realize, oh, yeah, do you know what? I am on the way to Islamabad. So you say goodbye, right? You leave, and we go out. So at some point, right, there's this just other distraction. You hear some music and some sounds, and there might be a party going on somewhere, which sounds really nice. So you go halfway, follow the sound, and your car runs out of fuel.
Yeah.
So now you're standing there, it's becoming late. You still know, like, I need to go to Islamabad. No, seriously, there's no fuel station to be found. So you're sleeping in the car all day, right? So at some point the next morning, right, you call, somebody comes with the fuel, the party's over, it has no use, right? And you need to drive because you took a detour, right? Wrong direction. So now you need to drive 3, 4 hours different route to go back to your same path to Islamabad. And that is kind of how life works, right? Is that like when we get a distraction, right? When there's something coming which is not on the path of our soul, right? Might be on the path of somebody else's soul, but might not be on the path of your soul, right? Is that we can kind of only take a detour. You can, like, the path is the path. You cannot get off the path. That is impossible, right? So the moment we realize we cannot get off the path, we can only take a very long detour, right? Take the touristic route, the scenic route with the bus, instead of the straightforward route. Then a lot of the anxiety already flows off, right? Because like the punishment of I'm doing it wrong, this hair is like in a way, like the punishment of doing it wrong is is already falling off. So there's a way more relaxation and ease. And then you might think like, do you know what? Things go really wrong in my life. Every single time I try to go to this nice party, I run out of fuel. Right? Sometimes that is the bigger source protecting you from doing silly things at a party where your business wasn't at. Right? Not for you. Somebody else might have a lovely time and meet their new husband or wife. Right? For you, it wasn't your party. right?
Yeah.
And you needed to go otherwise. So sometimes the things that feel right as really bad things, right? That like your car is breaking down, or that health problem that might show up, or right in even more severe cases like a marriage or a relationship that doesn't work out, or a business that isn't going as you want to, or maybe you get fired from a job which you really really wanted, is that those are often the moments, right, when we run out of fuel, when there's like the bigger whole of the universe is telling us, wait a second, this is not your route, this is just not your direction, right, this is someone else's direction but not yours.
Yeah.
So when it comes to that point, right, it's like realism sometimes is in the way actually of self-awareness and self-realization, because like is real for you might not be real for somebody else and realistic, right? And your soul knows best. Like your soul knows best. And
Yeah.
then when someone says like you make a fake idea, right? A fake idea would be, oh, let me go for ice cream, right? That is something that is gonna maybe give you a nice experience, but it's not on your path, right? And sometimes you go off and you run out of fuel that may give you a negative experience because it was not on your path. And like self-realization and self-awareness is kind of like nothing more or less than learning to listen to the signs and to the tools inside of you so that we do not get distracted, right? So that the path is more smooth and relaxed. And that is where the most calmness and peaceful feelings stayed inside come, right? But that doesn't mean that there's anything wrong if you go and take the ice cream, right? There's nothing wrong if you go on the detour and you might run out of fuel, or you might have 5 days of a nice camping trip in the mountains. It might not be on your path, right? Because ultimately you will kindly and gently be guided back to the center point. And like you, at least I would think right now, it's like, what does this have to do with making intuitive paintings, right? It is because, right, on daily basis, right, on a normal day, like you said, there's so much going on. There's a lot of politics. There's a lot of like things going on in the world. Like now, my mind goes blank, right? From anything from governments to financial systems to healthcare systems to educational systems changing, right? To
Even any emergencies at our homes that we were not anticipating.
yes, right. And somehow it seems that like emergency nowadays seems to occur more and more and more and more, like, or at least becomes more intense.
Yeah.
So, like after a day of work, right, just going to the office and being outside and doing the things that you want to do on a daily basis and navigating life, right? There's so many ice cream shops and there's so many gas stations on that day, right? Is that sometimes we need to like go home and just play with the paint a little bit and have a tool, like you said, to let all that distraction go so that we can see the path again, so that the next morning we go right back on route, back into the car, which is like your life, with coming from the point of centeredness, right, coming from the point of knowing. So like the more busy I am in my mind, the more I have to do, the more I actually make space to work on the paintings, because while doing that, because it's the technique we're discussing is so simple, is that my mind is not involved, but I do need focus, right? So my the focus is on the paint. You do need to pay attention. So slowly, right after 5 or 10 minutes, and especially when just putting some nice music on and just relaxing and have a cup of tea and not being bothered with the rest. Um, what happens is that the clutter starts disappearing, and actually the voice of the soul of the intuitive path comes up. So I'm suddenly getting these ideas. Oh, call that person tomorrow, and maybe go there, or maybe it's better to work from home today. And those are all like messages from the soul, right? Which gives us, and the more we trust those messages, and the more we learn to listen, right? That is where the self awareness comes from. because those messages aren't always as logical as we want them to be. And right, the more results we start getting, like, hey, wait a second, if I listen to those messages, first of all, I can receive them because there is now no clutter. And second of all, the more I listen, the more I get results. So the more I trust it, and the easier it becomes to go in that way. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. And I think it's very, very important. These tools and techniques are very important for people who are doing their jobs, who are trying to find their career, who are trying to find their fit in general, like we started the discussion with, and also very, very helpful for people who are doing their businesses. Because
Yes.
if you want to jump into a business in such kind of, you can say the scenarios that are not stable yet, the scenarios that are very unpredictable. There will be a tons of opinion thrown to you that okay, you should consider this. You will run out of funds. You will run out of security. Someone might steal your idea and stuff. Again, that is their call. That is how they see the things. So midway of all this chaos, I have to stay intact with my own opinion that I know there are things that can cause harm to me, but I also know that there are lots of opportunities out there for me that I can see because that is what my soul is guiding me. And this is not what others are going to see because their soul is guiding them towards something else. So oftentimes what we do is we probably in terms of respect we say that okay, so my elders said this, my seniors said that, so I should probably have their experience as my reference to make my decision. But no, it doesn't go that way. For people who really want to make their mark in the world and who have made their mark in the world, if we learn their stories, they have done things differently. And why do they do things differently? Because they've been following their own path, they've been listening to their own soul. And for that, I would really recommend and I would really endorse that now it is more than ever needed that we have to focus on the self-awareness part as a essential part of our self-development, of our professional development, of our social development, even to make the most important decisions for our businesses. Because the world is changing so fast. We all have seen it at a global level how things changed all of a sudden when there was this COVID situation, when there was this lockdown. Nobody was ready. And then the fear that we were being fed over and over again. So the businesses are losing, so the jobs are going away. People started losing hope. And I think the cases for mental health and the chaos and the need for finding the treatments for mental health, they rised up like it was a big spike. Why? Because we are not yet trained, unfortunately, in our brought up that how we need to listen to our answer because it will always give us something which is for us there. That's why, like Steve Jobs says, that listen to your heart and follow your intuition. So that is why intuition, the triggers that we are blessed with in our own self, our gut feeling, it somehow knows that where we want to take the direction. The reason we don't go there because we are so curious to go to that party that was not ours to go to. We were supposed to come back. Yeah,
Yeah, and there might be an even bigger party that is yours a little bit further
yeah,
along the road, right? And
yeah,
that is when the soul comes online. Like when you were speaking, there were like two things that came in my head, right? It's like we've been speaking about a lot of businesses, right? But what if
yeah,
you're like 20 at the beginning of your studies and you don't know, right? And what am I studying, or I'm going to study, right? When then also self-awareness is really important to build the self-confidence, right, that there is something in you which has value, right?
yes,
And to when making a painting, right, there are a few stages in it. They're like the beginning, the middle, and the end, and you always run inevitably at the point to this point that you think I cannot finish this painting, or this is not for me, or now it looks really ugly, and so I put it aside and I'm not going to finish it because it looks ugly. And learning to just finish the painting and see that like the ugly looking stage of a painting is just the middle stage, and after that you can actually deliver something that's really nice, is the exact reflection, right, of when you're young, when you're studying, when you're learning. when we feel insecure about society, or like doing that internship at that specific like company where you really want to be, but where all these people are like so cool and you feel so insecure about it, to like really learn how that process works, so that when you step out into the world, be outside of your studies and start creating things, right, that we know how to navigate it, and we don't have to be that afraid anymore when of the different stages of how things develop, right, and the stages where insecurity are, because we are familiar with them. So the
Yeah.
painting can help with it. And I saw one.
Yes, there's another question from Malik, and he says, underestimating ourselves can be bad. Overestimating ourselves can be worse. True or not?
mm, no, not, I wouldn't say true at all, right? um, there is there's a lot of beauty to have self-confidence, right? In so sometimes like we overestimate what we can do in a day, right, or in 2 days or in 3 days, and we underestimate what we can do in 3 months, 6 months, a year, or 5 years, right?
True.
Like when you say overestimating, that is a different thing than bragging and a lot of speaking without action, right? Like if you overestimate but do take the action, and you end up doing two things out of your to-do list instead of the 10 things, right? You're still on your path, right? So you're still in a good direction, right? If you make a to-do list of 10 things and you talk about the to-do list all day with a lot of like energy around it, but at the end of the day you didn't take any action, right? You're still at zero. So there's a difference between like overestimating, right, and making things look bigger and more beautiful on the outside than that they are without taking the action part. And
Yeah.
then underestimating, right, is the lack of self-confidence, which, right, with making these painting techniques, and if you just practice, you will see that your art is actually going to be pretty cool. And suddenly you start realizing, like, if I can make a painting, which I thought I would never be able to do, what else can I make? Right? What else is it that I can do? Or at least, right, through the process, start understanding what all the phases of creating something are, right? And it can be creating self confidence. It can be creating, I want to learn how to play soccer, football, right? Or want to learn how to play cricket, or right, how to set up your business, or how to deal with that VC fund, right? The moment you go out to ask for an investment, and what the stages are and how they feel inside of you. And that emotional awareness, which is also self awareness, will help you to stay in center, right? Like you spoke about, when like the moment is there, when your party is arriving.
Yeah. So I think being a student of this course that you have just created, I was thinking when I was back home, and I was like, oh wow, I was just observing the process, and it was so relaxing for me. I don't know, in a very long time I wasn't in touch with the colors and how they change the whole perspective, how they change your whole day. Because when we're making a decision, when we're doing our little things or the bigger plans in our routines, there are certain peculiarities of the mind that are involved. So our
Yes.
little actions define them. Our decision making in our little everyday happenings, they actually define our mindset. For example, when it comes to glasses, people who know me, so I always try to go and buy something which is not so usual, like this one. So when I bought this, I got home, and some of my family members, like the extended family, they were visiting and were like, where's your face? It just got hidden under your glasses. And they were like, those little funny comments and all. And I was like, okay, I appreciate that you think it's funny, but I feel very confident about it. Like it makes me feel very good. And after a month or so or something, people are now actually starting to ask me, where do you find your glasses? Like where do you go and shop for the frames, your spectacles? So everything makes sense after a certain time. So the point of saying this is this little act of choosing a frame of my spectacle which suits me. Even these little actions are clarify people that, okay, so if I buy a frame like that I like, but people don't like it, I'm going to make a fool out of myself. And this little habit, it actually goes and advocates their bigger actions in their life. A person who cannot even choose their glasses frame of their own choices, how can they think that they're going to find their way in life, that they're going to find their fit in life? Those are bigger decisions.
Yeah.
So from where we are, we have to set up this, need to set our mindset or fix our mindset, which is being spoiled in the chaos. In order to do that, we first have to go back and know ourselves, because all this distraction, all this, people getting annoyed easily, all this stress, anxiety, they are an out loud expression of something has gone wrong in our lives, and we can fix it. It's
Yes.
not that we cannot fix it. It is just that we have to be aware of the tools and techniques. So over to you,
And
before we go to
yeah,
the, so
like
I
you,
would, coming
the
back to
yeah, the spectacle example is really beautiful, right? Because that is where it started for me too. I wasn't even capable of choosing a dish from the menu card because I thought that people would judge me for it, right? When I would go somewhere, I couldn't even decide if I wanted vanilla or chocolate ice cream, and that is not a joke, right? I couldn't at some point not even decide what it is that I wanted to wear, because before, right, people would always comment on the things that I was wearing. So I literally tried to figure out what everybody else wanted me to do, and it was so suffocating that I literally had like panic attacks at the street, right, and seeing stars like many years ago, and that I needed to sleep 5 hours when I got home and didn't know what I was buying in the supermarket. It was that
yeah,
bad. And
yeah,
like when starting making the paintings, when I started doing this for the first time, I exactly run into that problem. And right, because I was trying to play it safe with like just a little like pink here and a little purple there and things. And I remember like after two paintings, which were actually really nice, I like came home and I felt so much like rage and anger and like disappointment of I wanted to break out of something. And I didn't. So I went to the canvas. I took one, and like red is one of the like the most like powerful colors, right? So I painted the whole background red, and then took all the bottles that I had, right? What is it? Pink, blue, yellow, orange, green, purple, everything that didn't fit together, and I literally put all colors, white. The only thing I didn't use was black. All colors on it, and I just thought, like, do you know what? I'm just going to prove my insanity here right now, right? I don't
yeah,
care anymore. I want everything because, like, and I had absolutely no trust that this was going to work out, right? Because how can something where you put all colors, like literally just squeezing the bottle, like squeezing it, and then making no sense, come into a good painting? It is until this day one of my the best paintings I made because it came so freely. And now I learned that was a really big lesson because I learned to put my emotion in what it is that I do, right? But then in a channeled way, right? So if I my feelings kind of like dictate the colors. I trust whatever comes. And sometimes it's like all cute, right, and gentle and compassionate and kindness, and they're very soft, loving colors. And sometimes there's more going on. And by putting the colors in this way on the canvas, right, it's also literally like an energy transmission that everything we carry towards the day comes on the canvas. And then later on, the canvas starts, through the colors, start talking back to us with the messages, right, which come from our soul of what
yeah,
it actually is that we are working with at the moment. So the painting kind of becomes like your becomes the spiritual teacher, right? It starts talking to you
it
because
does.
first you put in the heart and the feelings, and those are the ones who dictate or create the colors, and then later on the colors and the lines through the technique start talking to us. So
Yeah,
in the end, because it's not about making like pretty art or not pretty art, right? Obviously, the outcome most likely will be your amazing piece of art, but that is just a physical, tangible result. The main purpose of it is the lesson and the process we go through while doing this.
yeah.
So I'm
So
awesome.
amazing. Yeah, so we are still having some question that's from Malik, but as We have already, the time has just gone swept away, because by the
Yeah.
time I lost my internet connection, I was like, whoa, okay, so chaos, but okay, fine, nothing is going wrong. It happens, and you perfectly led the show after that. And I would like to thank everyone who joined us in today's live episode of Skills to Do. And it's so much amazing that how much people are determined to learn new skills, because this is the time when we need it more than ever. The global economy being hit by this COVID and the lockdown situation. May God save us from all such situations in the future. But I would say that even better prayer would be that may God keep us ready to face
Yeah.
it, to live through it, and to thrive through it, and have a happy life with it. So, Skills to Do is with that passion that we have started, and like Tamara has shared with you so many amazing things about self awareness and intuitive art. And I'm so glad to share that Tamara has created a dedicated course on intuitive art, which is a lot of practical as well. And then you're gonna see how things just get mixed and matched, and the final thing you see, you're like, wow, oh, okay, so I created it. So you're gonna thank Tamara a tons of time after you watch the course. So, Tamara, thank you so very much for taking out time and joining us today for this live
Thank you so much.
episode.
I
Yeah,
feel I feel honored and humbled to be working together with you and to setting this up. And I agree with you for 100%. Right? It's like let the universe, let God, make prepare us ready for the changes.
yeah,
And the more of our souls come online, the more we're capable of assisting the whole of humanity. Right? To go
yes,
one next stage further, and for us to create a beautiful world.
yeah, yeah. I mean, so with this, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much, Tamara. There's so much that we need to learn from each other, that we need to share with each other, and make the coming, testing times to be easier and smoother for all of us with each other's help and with God's
Yes.
grace. So with this, thank you so much. Inshallah, see you in the
Yeah.
next episode of Live with Skills to Do. Till then, take care. God bless.
Take care. God bless.